today we will explain chapter 12, social discounting and intergenerational justice. Okay? And after we finish this chapter, I will take your proposals and I will have a look at them and I will see if they are fine so that you can proceed with your projects. Yeah. No. Okay, I will see after the break, during the break, we will discuss about it. Because I need from you, some of you pass to my office during the office hour. Those who did not need to discuss with me their proposals, and we should be starting so that you will not be in a hurry during the last weeks. Okay, we have time, but we should start. Sorry, what's your name? Yes.
John.
You did not take the action. So you need to talk to me after the break. And chapter 12 is a very important chapter also. You know that for the midterm, most probably we are going to have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have probably 16. So these chapters are going to be important for your midterm. Chapter 12 talks about social discounting and intergenerational justice. What's discounting first? Do you know what is discounting? To understand the concept of discounting, in case you have a project and you will have cash flow from this project and you are going to invest $100,000 today, and next year you will get, in the first year you will get 20,000, in the second year 30,000, in the third year 80,000, etc. You want to see whether this project is feasible, is profitable or not. You need to look at what is the present value of the cash that the project will pay you in the future. Okay? If it is higher, you will have a positive net present value. So the discount rate is the rate that you are going to use to discount to determine the present value of future income or future cash flow. This discount can be the inflation, in other words, or the risk-free interest rate, which is the rate of the treasury bills. I will try to explain it in Arabic. So, إذا شخص عنده مشروع مستثمر فيه $100,000 اليوم، هذا المشروع بيعطيه $110,000 بعد سنة. بده يشوف حتى يعمل دراسة صحيحة ودقيقة، بده يشوف قد ايه قيمة $110,000 يلي رح اقبضهم بعد سنة، قد ايه قيمتهم اليوم. إذا كانت قيمتهم اليوم 105,000، اوكي، يعني أنا بكون استفدت، بس إذا قيمتهم 90,000 أنا معي 100 اليوم، يعني ما لازم فوت بالمشروع. كيف بعمل ديسكاونتينج؟ بدي اعتمد على ديسكاونت ريت. إذا كانت يعني الانفليشن التضخم 20%، $120,000 بعد سنة بيساوي 100,000 اليوم، لأنه في عندي تضخم أو نسبة ارتفاع الأسعار 20%. Inflation is 20%. So the money during 1 year will lose 20% of its value. يعني إذا معي $100,000 اليوم بيساوي مينيموم $120,000 بعد سنة. أحسن يكون معي 100 اليوم ولا 115 بعد سنة. فإذا أنا عملت مشروع وطلع لي ربح $15,000 خلال هذه السنة، 100,000، هذا مشروع خاسر إذا كانت I'm discounting to 20%. بس إذا I discount على 5% discount rate، يعني بيعتمدوا 5% لأنه تضخم بده يكون 5%، لا، 115 إذا بيعطيني المشروع $15,000 يعني رح يربحني، لأنه ال100,000 هلا قيمتهم 105 بعد سنة، فأنا ربحني 115,000، يعني أنا ربحت $10,000. what is the discount rate that I should use? Is it 2%, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30? It depends on many factors. If we are talking, it depends on the inflation, on the risks. Sometimes they use the treasury bills, which is the risk-free rate, they call it. يعني إذا واحد معه 100 مليون ليرة وحطهم اشترى سندات خزينة تصدرها الدولة الحكومة وفايدة هالسندات 10%. يعني إذا أنا معي 100 مليون وحطيتهم بالسندات خزينة باخذ فايدة 10% مضمونة، لأنه نوع الدولة ما بتقفلس بالمبدأ. فال 100 مليون بعد سنة رح أقبضهم 110 مليون. فأنا بعتمد 10% as discount rate. I compare to this. So I use the discount rate to calculate future value, the present value of future cash flow or future income. This is in finance. This is in finance. We are going to study what is the social discount rate. So for social projects that we were talking about, what is the discount rate that I should use? And إذا أنا بدي أعمل طريق بتكلف $100,000 وعائدات هالطريق على مدى السنين هي $150,000. بدي اشوف هال $150,000 على 10 سنين قد ايه قيمتها اليوم؟ يمكن قيمتها 80. هي الطريق not worth it. ما لازم. قد ايه لازم يكون الديسكاونت ريت؟ 5 6 7 8 10. كيف بعمل له estimation؟ شو في theories تحكي عن هالموضوع؟ all of this is going to be studied in this chapter. So how to calculate the social discount rate? Is the concept of discount rate clear? And we want to see intergenerational justice. You know, some project that you do today might have effect on the future generation, positive or negative. So I should take also this into consideration while evaluating and looking into social goods and projects. So what are the sections to be covered in this chapter? Section 1, the introduction. Section 2, why social discount rate matters. Why is it important? Section 4, discounting in a second-best world. Section 5, the ethics of discounting and intergenerational justice. In Section 5, we study only 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5. As you see, Section 3, for example, is not included. So you need to study the sections, and there are many pages or sections that are not required. You don't need to study them. You can read them, but they are not required for your exam. What are the expected learning outcomes from this chapter? First, understanding the importance of social discounting in environmental project appraisal. To understand the importance of social discounting. As discounting is important for finance to determine whether I should do this project or not from a financial perspective, it's also important for social appraisal of social projects. So social discounting rate, implication for climate change, the implication of social discount rate and its relation with climate change. Understand the distinction between positive and descriptive approach and normative ethical approaches for social discount rate. There are positive or descriptive approaches and normative ethical approaches. I know now you don't know what do we mean by this. We are going to study them in the chapter. And finally, understand ethical approaches to social discounting. Looking into social discounting from an ethical perspective. In this section, we will look at the intergenerational justice. We should have some fairness. We should not let the future. Suppose you do a project today that will maybe lead to some toxic material and carbon emission, and this carbon emission is going to be accumulated after 30 years. It will lead, or 50 years. It will lead to big changes in the environment, in the climate. It will affect the health of people after 50 years. Not now, and it takes time for the effect to be there. So the project that is done today For 50 years, no bad effect. Maybe after 50 years, there will be bad effect. Shall we do it? You should look at also there should be ethics, and you should look at future generations. Maybe in 50 years you won't be there, but you should consider the future generation, and this is intergenerational justice. Introduction: government policies and projects in education, health, energy, research and development, environment and others have consequences that extend over a long period. We should have social discounting because projects or like any government policy يعني السياسة الحكومية والمشاريع اللي بتقوم فيها الحكومات إن كانت صحية أو ثقافية أو علمية أو لها علاقة بالطاقة أو بالأبحاث أو بالبيئة إلها تأثير مش بس يعني تأثيرها ليوم أو يومين أو ثلاثة، تأثيرها طويل الأمد. That's why I should discount to see what's the present value now of what I'm going to get in the future. The most difficulty and complex global problem we are facing is the human-generated climate change. One of the consequences of the projects made by the private sector or by the government sometimes is the human-generated climate change. Climate change is not changing because of changes in nature, no. The human, we are changing the climate. How? By polluting the environment, by using chemicals, toxic materials, energy, fuel, etc. All of these affect carbon emission, they affect the ecosystem, they affect the climate, and they will lead to many problems and changes in nature that will affect our lives. Okay? So this is one of the consequences of the projects that are being executed by governments and sometimes, of course, by the private sector, private companies. We should study this and we should understand these future consequences. Question: how can societies and governments balance right between the well-being of present and future generation? Government should not only care about the present generation, the current generation, the people that are living now, they should look also into future consequences. الconsequences العواقب يلي بدها تصير بالمستقبل. Economists have provided guidance in these matters in the form of cost-benefit analysis. The cost-benefit analysis that we studied before in DD309A and in the first chapters of DD309B, they give us some information how to evaluate projects using the cost-benefit analysis. Assessment of cost-benefit of a policy or project to a society requires the use of social discount rate. This is very important. Assessment of the cost. Why we are studying this chapter? This is one of the main reasons, which is very important. To assess يعني لتقييم الكلفة أو الإفادة أو المنفعة لشو؟ للسياسة أو مشروع يعني عم نعمل تقييم لسياسة أو مشروع بتقوم فيه الحكومة مثلا على المستقبل، على الأجيال اللاحقة، على الاقتصاد، على الفيوتشر جنريشن. تنقدر نقوم بهذا الشيء نحن بحاجة إلى we need to use the social discount rate. لأنه very important point. If I want to do, suppose, a project as a government related to energy, okay? بدي أعمل معمل نووي لإنتاج الكهرباء. الcost is $1 million. But there are also future costs that will come later. I should know what's the value of this future cost now. Okay. What are the value of the future benefits now? I compare. If the future benefits valued today are greater than the present value of the costs, it means the project is fine. It has advantages. If not, I should stop. But for me to compare, I need to determine what? The social discount rate. Another more clear example. Building maybe, suppose a university will cost $10 million, public university. In the first year maybe the benefit will be for 1,000 students. They will benefit from education. In the second, 2,000 students. In the third, 4,000. And the effect of these students are going to work and start making money, etc. And they affect positively the economy. I want to see, is it worth spending $10 million to have a large university? Maybe I can have a smaller one. Is it fine to spend $10 million now on this project? I need to see what's the future benefit. What is the value of the future benefits now? If the value is more than 10 million, it means I have positive net present value, because if I have 11 million present value of future income now, which is higher than 10 million, which is the cost of the project, now I'm going to spend it, then the project is has a what we call net positive value, which is something good. It means this project is feasible, doable, and good. Finding the social discount rate is not easy. That's why we study. Or we will tell you the social discount rate is 5%. You need to use it when you are making calculations in the cost-benefit analysis point. If that's the case, but it's not the case. People write many papers. There is a lot of research done. There are many ideas, many different ideas on how to give what is the best value of the discount rate that we should use. Finding the social discount rate is not easy, and it can be subject of discrepancies in the true net benefit to certain projects, plans, and policies. How to determine the social discount rate is going to be the main topic of this chapter. So we're going to see how to determine the social discount rate. Because, again, I want to stress this point. If I use a discount rate, social discount rate, I estimate it as 10%. The project, suppose one economist or one researcher said the social discount rate for this project is 10%. The other said is 5%. So if I discount it, maybe for the one who said 5%, the project is good. But if I use 10% discount rate, the project will be causing losses. That's why social discount rate is very important. So, is it 5 or 10? If it's 5, then I do the project. If it's 10, I don't do it. Shall I do it? Which one? Well, I don't know. I'm telling you, again, suppose I want to start a project. I ask a research center, please try to estimate for me the social discount rate that I should use it in making my calculations regarding this project. The research center provided me, he said, use 5%. Another research center, I asked them to make for me the estimate. He said, I think it's 10% based on theories, analysis, studies. One said 5% to use 5% social discount rate, the other 10%. This difference is very important. If the project pays off or gives return more than the 5% in present value, I should make it. but the 10 is high. Maybe I will be able, if I discount it to 5, on 5%, it will be profitable, but to 10%, it's not profitable. There will be negative present value. In other words, I'm trying to tell you, it's very important to decide what's the best social discount rate that I should use. That's why this chapter helps us determining this. What is the definition of the social discount rate? The social discount rate is defined as the appropriate value, appropriate value to use in computing present discount value for social investments. If I want to determine the present value of social investments, I need to use a discount rate called the social discount rate. Okay? In financial projects or in businesses, I use a discount rate. Okay, usually it's the inflation, as I told you, it's the risk-free rate, etc. There are many. I use it to discount the cash flow of certain financial projects. But for social investments, I should use a discount rate, which is the social discount rate. Why do I use it? To determine present values of future benefits. Present value of future benefits. Or present costs of future costs. And climate change is a cost in the future. So I should measure it. What's the present value today? So I will use the word, we will use SDR as social discount rate. So a higher social discount rate make it less likely a social project will be funded. If the social discount rate is high, I gave you the example of 5 and 10%. If the social discount rate is 10%, then it is not attractive, it might not be a good idea to fund, to نمول or to make this project. Maybe if the social discount rate is 5%, it will be a good idea to fund the project and to make the project. The choice of discount rate can make a significant difference to whether the present value of a project is positive and to the relative desirability of alternative projects. So I need to decide, I use the discount rate to determine the present value, and then I will look whether the net present value is positive or negative. If it is positive, it means the project is doable, it should be done, it's profitable. If it is negative, it means the project, the social project or social investment should not be done. Second, I need the discount rate in case I have 4 projects, suppose. I have alternatives. I have project 1, 2, 3, 4. I just have, governments and private companies also have usually limited resources. In economics and in the world, resources are limited, are scarce. That's why we should use them in the best way possible. So if I have many alternatives, many projects, I should choose between 1 or 2 of them. The discount rate will make me choose the best alternative, the one that has the highest positive net present value. Do you have questions here? Any questions? Especially when cost and benefit accrue at different times and over long periods. This is the continuation of the statement. Especially if costs or benefits are not only in the short run or in the present. They might appear in long periods. That's why I need the discount rate to see the value of these future benefits or costs now. To see the present value of future costs or benefits now. This is an argument why social why social discount rate matter. This is an argument. We are trying here to see why is it important to try to evaluate the social discount rate. Implications for climate change. The answer quickly is because the idea of climate change is going to happen over time. It doesn't happen suddenly. And the more we do projects that will harm the environment, we are going to have more and more implications on climate change. The global warming that we are facing, الاحتباس الحراري, which is a big problem, climate change, nature, water, resources. It's not, don't think this problem is simple. It's a very big problem. Maybe now it is still fine, not very well seen or felt by the population or by the societies. But for the coming generation, the problem will be much and much bigger. Okay? Social cost, example, social cost of carbon is the present value of the discounted stream of future damage to society from emitting an additional ton of carbon. Let's see figures 12.1 and 12.2. What will we understand from these? The social cost of carbon emissions, carbon that is الكربون اللي عم يطلع على الايكو سيستم وعلى الاتموسفير وبالهواء نتيجه شركات او مصانع او غيره. هذا الكربون is the present value, the social cost of this carbon is the present value of the damage that will happen for the future. في social cost of carbon. What's the social, if I ask you what's the social cost of carbon emissions?
It will damage the ozone.
Yes, but you will admit it might damage it after 10 years. No, but in order for you to determine the social cost of carbon, you have to determine the present value of the damages caused by this carbon emission in the future. For you to determine the present value, you need a discount rate. So this is a reason why social discount rate is important. For you to determine the social cost of carbon which will lead to a climate change, you need to determine the present value of the future damages of carbon. How do you determine this? You need not discount, social discount. Social cost of carbon with a discount rate of 1% is 60 times larger than with a discount rate of 10%. If I use a discount rate socially as 1%, it will be 60 times larger than with a discount rate of 10%. Okay? Not lower, larger. Why? I'm now looking into cost, not benefit. If it's a benefit, if the discount rate is 10% or 1%, if I'm talking about benefit, it differs. Now I'm talking about a cost. If I use a social discount rate of 1%, the effect of carbon, in other words, the social cost of the carbon will be 60 times higher than if I'm using a discount rate of 10%. So here just a small example to tell you how important is the social discount rate. If researchers say that while finding the social cost of carbon, use 1% discount rate. In other words, in this case, I will get a number which is 60 times larger than if researchers said 10%. It means if I use 1% discount rate, the cost will be much more than using a discount rate of 10. Which one is better? Which one is more appropriate? There are many studies, researchers, etc., trying to find. There are ways, theories to determine is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, etc. Discounting at 10% would mean that few climate change mitigation projects would be accepted. Okay? So, not many projects will be accepted. Let us look at the figures. You have the books, you should have the books with you. Okay, can you please get one of the books? No. Okay, please, Chad, you have the book where you can see with your colleagues. Fine. I think you can get them. Okay, so let us see if we look at figure 12.1, the damage from 1 extra ton of carbon emissions in US dollars, source Nordus and Boyer 2000. These two researchers, economists, Nordus and Boyer, made a study in year 2000. You can look on the y-axis, you have the damage in dollars per ton. On the y-axis, on the x-axis, you have the years. In year 2000, they started that the cost is $0. In year 2100, it reaches its maximum, then it starts to go down. Okay? In figure 12.2, the social cost of carbon at different discount rate. As you can see, when the discount rate used is 10, we got the lowest social cost of carbon. When the discount rate is 1, the social cost is much higher. Okay? But as you can see, between 2000 and 2100, so the project, if it is implemented today, in 100 years, the effect will be maximum, then it will start to go down. It will have an effect for the future up to 100 years. And this effect will be increasing. This is figure 12.1, the first one. Okay? Clear until now? Do you have questions? So why social discount rates matter? Another question. We are continuing the first part, the climate change implication. Controversy over recommendations of Stern review on economists of climate change. Stern took a normative view of the discount rate. How should we treat future generations? Nordus, who criticized Stern, took a positive view. How do we actually discount future generations? In fact, in economics there are positive statements, normative statements, that in economics, in chapter 1, usually you study in economics, first chapter, they tell you that there are positive statements and normative statements. Normative statements like this: how should we treat this? Okay? What should we do? Okay? Whenever there is the word, how should we solve? How should we, etc. This is a positive statement. A normative statement. A positive statement, how do we, okay? Actually, this is how should we, the other is how do we treat this concept. This is difference just between positive and normative statement. Now we are going to see this in social discount rate. There were Stern in year 2007 did a study, and Nordus, the one who you saw his graph on the figures, right, also made this study. The two studies are the two studies are related or not related, criticize each other. Both of them try to find what is the social discount rate that we should use. Both of them are trying to answer the question, what is the social discount rate that we should use for carbon, etc., to determine the effect of social investments on climate change. You need to determine the social discount rate. Each one has its view. The view, according to Stern, he used a normative view of the discount rate. How should we treat future generations? He was searching for how to treat future generations. While Nordis, he criticized this term, took a positive view. How do we actually discount future generations? Stern, as a result, selected a lower discount rate than Nordis. Which one had, how do we treat future generation? It means the effect is going to be huge, and how are we going to treat them? So we should determine the discount rate based on the huge cost that will happen and the damage that is going to be there. The other one is how do we actually discount future generation? In this case, he is, if you want, minimizing the cost. That's why he chose a higher social discount rate. For Stern, the cost is higher on the future generation. That's why he chose he estimated the cost to be higher. He chose a lower discount rate. So Stern, as a result, selected a lower discount rate than Nordis. Therefore, Stern calculated much higher social cost. So for Stern, the social cost is higher. That's why he chose a lower social discount rate. Since as discount rate increased, the social cost of carbon rise. So if the discount rate is low, it means the social cost is going to be high. So if the government officials believe in Stern views, they will not implement, or they might stop doing many projects, because according to him the social cost is very high. He used a very low discount rate. If they believe in Nordis analysis, they will choose a higher social discount rate, so many projects will be implemented. Okay? Clear? Now, discounting in a second best word. How do we select the social discount rate in practice? This is the concept of discounting in a second best word. In reality, in practice, how do we choose the social discount rate? The others had positive view, normative view, etc. Fine. Everyone, for the one who had a positive view, we chose a social discount rate. The other, we chose another discount rate. This is Stern and Nordis. But in practice, how do we choose the social discount rate? When markets are perfectly competitive, both within and between time periods, for all inputs and outputs, a decentralized economy will equate the rate of return on capital R to the social rate of time preferences S. The benefit or cost per dollar can be calculated as 1/1 plus R to the power T, where R equal the social discount rate and T equals time. Before I explain this idea, in finance, if I tell you calculate the present value of $100,000, okay, of $120,000, if the interest rate per year is 10%. So what's the present value of $120,000 today? No, what's the present value? We will do the calculation. What's the present value of $100,000 $120,000 today if the interest rate is 10%. يعني in other words, to make it clear, $120,000 معكم اياهم بعد سنين، قد ايه قيمتهم اليوم اذا الفايده 10%؟ In other words, أنا قلت لكم interest 10%. I want you here to use the interest as the discount rate. In order to calculate the net present value in finance, use the following equation. Net present value equal 1 over 1 plus R, where R is the discount rate or the interest rate in this example, to the power n, where n is the number of years. I gave you number of years as 1. So if you want to make the calculation, then it's 1 over 1 plus R, where R is what? The discount rate, which is 10%. So I divide $120,000, of course, times the future value. It's 1 over 1 plus R to the power t times the future value. So I divide 120,000 divided by 1 over, sorry, $120,000 divided by 1 plus 0.1 كلها to the power 1. So it's 120,000 over 1.1. The answer is the present value of this $120,000 using discount rate equal to 10%, where here I used it as the interest. This is in finance. Let us now go into social discount rate. They are telling you in practice, in case the market, in a perfectly competitive market, in case we have perfect competition for all inputs and outputs, so in a perfectly competitive market, and in a decentralized economy, market economy, where there is no, the government is not, where the economy is not centralized or command system, it is more free economy. Then the rate of return on capital R to the social discount rate as is used. In other words, the benefit or cost per dollar can be calculated as 1 over 1 plus R to the power t. I can use this equation to estimate the future cost or the present value of future costs or benefit. Only in case the economy is perfectly competitive for all inputs and outputs, and the economy is also decentralized, not centralized. In this case, I can use the following formula to estimate what the future cost, the present value of future costs or future benefits. The equation is 1 over 1 plus R to the power t, where R stands for the social discount rate and T stands for time. Okay? It's the same as, so it is not complicated. Here just we are telling you the discount rate R, I use it in a similar way as interest rate or in finance. But of course the R, the rate of return on capital R, so the social discount rate of time reference is S. Okay? However, most like the above mentioned conditions do not hold. Most likely, not most likely. So how do we then choose the correct social discount rate? However, in reality, we don't have perfectly competitive market. This is theoretical. So in theory, fine, we can use 1 over 1 plus R to the power t. T stands for time. Okay, T stands for time. We can use this in case the economy is perfectly competitive, the market is perfectly competitive. But in reality, this is not the case. So how do we then choose the correct social discount rate? Baumol talked about the direct adjuncts of the second best. Second best, the first best word is perfectly competitive, market, decentralized, free market, etc. But this doesn't exist. So let's see, how do we choose any second best? Should we use R or S as social discount rate, or a combination of the two? What is R? Rate of return on capital. R is the rate of, شو rate of return on capital يعني؟ يعني it's like the interest rate. رح ارجع شوي. Please ركزوا معي. In a perfectly competitive world, the social discount rate is equal to R. What is R? It's the rate of return on capital. يعني عادة they use it as the risk-free rate. Risk-free interest rate. يعني الفايدة اللي ما عليها risk. If you put your money in a bank, the rate of return on capital, for example, is 8%. If you get 8% interest. But this is not the risk-free because the bank may go bankrupt. يمكن يفلس البنك وتخسر أموالك. فهي منا risk-free return. But if you buy a treasury bill, اشتريت سند خزيني. In other words, you lend money to the government by buying a treasury bill or treasury bond. The government has to repay you after 1 year. The risk of not getting back your money is somehow zero. Why? Because governments can print money. Yes? Even though there might be inflations, etc. It happened in Lebanon. But in general, for example, in Lebanon, we had many problems, we had wars, etc. But the government always repaid back all the treasury bills, all the people who bought the treasury bills. All. And on time. Never defaulted. Some banks defaulted. Some banks paid. So that's why we take the rate of return of capital that is risk-free. That is the rate of return on capital we estimate as the risk-free rate, اللي هو the rate on T-bills. This is one way. I'm just telling you here that in case we are talking about perfect competition, decentralized economy, then we can use the rate of return on capital. Then no need to do much effort. The social discount rate is simple. We look at the rate of return of capital. In the economy, we use it as a social discount rate, then we can make our calculations for future costs or benefits of social investments. But as we said, we are not living in this perfect world. So let us see what Tubor says. The answer depends on number of factors. So should we use R or S as a social discount rate, or a combination of the two? The answer depends on source of funds for the proposed projects, extent to which benefits of the projects are consumed or reinvested, types of investment that the government is capable of undertaking. Shall we use R or S as a social discount rate, and the rate of return on capital, or S, the social discount rate? This depends on the source of funds of the project, مصدر الأموال أو تمويل البروجكت, extent to which the benefits of the project are consumed, لأي درجة في استفادة من البروجكت ولأي درجة هالبروجكتس are consumed يعني رح يستهلكوا أو ينشروا, types of investment that the government is capable of undertaking, ونوع الاستثمارات اللي الدولة أو الحكومة قدرت تقوم فيه. How the three factors بيساعدوني to decide whether I use R or S. When R and S diverge, how should we choose the social discount rate? Sometimes R and S converge, and R and S values are close to each other. that's fine. But sometimes they diverge. R هون, S هون. Then here there is a problem in choosing the social discount rate. Ramsey model. Ramsey is very important economist. Ramsey's model holds only under perfect competition, but in the presence of taxation and externalities, then R and S diverge. Ramsey model said you equate R to S only in case of perfect competition. But if there are taxes, that means the government is there, I cannot equate R and S. If there is externalities, I cannot equate R and S. So in real life, you cannot equate R and S. They will diverge. They will not converge to one value. They converge in case of what? Perfect competition, decentralized economy, no taxes, no externalities. R and S will be equal. In case we have taxes, we have government intervention. In case we have decentralized economy, in case we don't have perfect competition, we have imperfect competition, R and S will be different. If public investment is financed solely by consumption, foregone consumption, then the appropriate social discount rate is the social rate of time preference. In case the public investment is only financed by foregone consumption, and in case the investment is financed by consumption, بالاستهلاك، إذا كان استثمار اللي انعمل رح نسترجعه كدولة من خلال الاستهلاك أو إنتاج معين رح يستهلك. Okay? In this case, we can use the social discount rate as what we call the social rate of time preference. Social rate of time preference. Okay? If public expenditure on a project solely displaces private investment, then the appropriate discount rate should be risk-free rate of return on private capital R. In case the public, for us not to mix up here, let us make it simple. We are trying to find the social discount rate that we should use for discounting public social investments. If public investments are financed, يعني التمويل لهم is from foregone consumption, then we should use the discount rate equal to what we call the social time preference. In case the public investment or public expenditure, الاستثمار الحكومي, on a project displaces, displaces private investment, and it will take the place of private investment. If public investment is taking the place of private investment, we use what we call the risk-free, the discount rate or the social discount rate should be the risk-free rate of return on private capital. لما الدولة عم تقوم باستثمار مكان القطاع الخاص، بنستعمل إذا أنا private sector and I am doing a project, I use the risk-free rate of return. And no discussion. For private sector, it's easy, very easy. And you care about money. Are you with me? For private sector, you care about money. So if you want to discount, you use usually the risk-free rate of return. You will see if your project pays you more than the risk-free rate of return, you will do it. If not, you will not do it. You will not make the investment. It's not worth it. If the government is doing a project on behalf, like replacing the private sector, it should act the same way as the private sector, and here we can use the risk-free rate of return on capital for private investment as a discount rate. If the government is replacing the private sector in the investment, it should act in the same way. In other words, it uses the social discount rate, which is equal to the risk-free rate of return on capital. If a public project displaces both consumption and private investment in combination of the case before and this case, then a weighted average of R and M shall be used. See example page, we'll see the example page 64. Please listen. If the public investment is funded by consumption and at the same time the project is displacing private investment, so here in this case we have to use a combination of R and S. The example, page 64, will explain for us this idea. So let us see the example, page 64. Please, I will read briefly and let us solve this example. If a public project displaces both consumption and private investment. In the first case that we studied, the public investment displaced consumption. Displaced consumption. The second one, it displaced private investment. In the first one, we equated the social discount rate to S, so to the social time preference. In the second, we equated the social discount rate to the free rate of return on private capital. In this case, now we're looking into the case where we have both, with using numbers. Please listen and let us try to understand. If a public project displaces both consumption and private investment, some economists suggested that a weighted average of rate of return M, yani R, RM or R, and S should be used. So a weighted average of R and S should be used. For instance, if R equals 16% and S equals 6%, as in the example above, etc., it doesn't matter, and the proportion of funds coming from consumption and private investments are 0.8 and 0.2 respectively, calculate the appropriate social discount rate. You are given the following. The discount rate, I want to determine now the social discount rate. Okay? In this case, I am given the following. The project displaces both consumption and private investment, so I should use the combination of R and S. Suppose R equal 10 and S equal 2. What's the number what's the social discount rate that I will choose?
10 plus 2 over 2.
10 plus 2 over 2 equals 6. Right? In this case, I have given 50% weight for R and 50% weight for S. But maybe the project is displacing private investment more. 80% of the project is displacing private investment, and 20% private, 20% displacing consumption. Not 50-50. In this case, I should give 80% weight to the private investment, so 80% weight to the discount rate used by private, which is R, and 20% to the discount rate used by for the which is the social time preference S. In this case, I'm given the following: R equals 16% and S equals 6. Why? Proportion of funds coming from consumption are 0.8 or 80%. And those coming from private sector are 0.2 or 20%. So how do I calculate the appropriate social discount rate? I multiply 0.8, which is the weight for R, times 6%, and because 0.8 is coming from consumption, so 0.8 times S, which is 6%, plus 0.2, you'll hit 20% coming from the private investment, times 16%, and the answer is 8. If you added them, as you said, Joel, 16 plus 6 is 22, divided by 2, 11. In case you have given 50% funding is coming from consumption and 50% from private investment, you can say that the appropriate social discount rate is 50% times 16 plus 50% times 6, and your answer will be 11. But in this case, the weight given for consumption is 80%, so you multiply 0.8 or 80% times S plus 20% times R, and the appropriate social discount rate is 8. It's not half, it is 8. Because 8, as you said, it was a bit higher than 6, than S. Why? Because 80% weight is given to S. So the assumption here is that benefits of the projects are consumed, so no further adjustment is required to take account of the fact that a proportion of these benefits might be reinvested. No, we used 80% because we believe that 80% funding of the project comes from consumption. Why we use the weight 80% times S? S stands for what? S stands for what? Who can tell me? Time preference. Okay, what is it? It's the discount rate, social discount rate that we use in case the public expenditure, public investment is displacing or is funded by يعني ممول من استهلاك، من تمويل المشروع من الاستهلاك. We use S as no, not that. S is not as the social. We use S as the social discount rate. In case the funding comes from private investment, we use, or in case the public investment is displacing private investment, we use the R, which is the risk-free interest rate of capital. We use R as what? As a social discount rate. In case the project is 80% from consumption and 20% comes from private investment, then I multiply 80% times S plus 20% times R. When I do this, I will get the social discount rate, which is the combination of the two. And this is written here. If a public project displaces both consumption and private investment, then a weighted average of R and M and S, not M, R and S shall be used. Questions? We can take 10 minutes break and we will continue. Please turn on. How many groups? What translation? Okay, now, discounting in practice So in practice, how do we calculate and estimate the social discount rate? Observed market data can be used to estimate the social discount rate. This is referred to as descriptive or positive view of discounting. In case of public projects, the appropriate rate of discount is argued to be the rate of return on assets, such as government bonds that are considered risk-free. So, in practice, we need to find ways to calculate the social discount rate. You can use the market data, information from the market data, statistics, to estimate the social discount rate. One way, we refer to this when we use market data to estimate social discount rate. This is known as descriptive or positive view of discounting. This is easy, can be done easier than others. It's not theoretical, it is practical, it depends on data. For example, if in case of public projects of the government, we can sometimes use the rate of return on assets like government bonds, I told you about this, which are considered to be risk-free. If the government wishes to use S, the social rate of time preference, then this requires estimates of 3 parameters. In the first case, if the government wants to decide to use, what can the government use as a social discount rate? Can you tell me? What can the government use as a social discount rate? It can use R or S or combination. If it wants to use R, there is no problem at all. R is given. If you tell me what's the risk-free rate of return on government bonds, I tell you in Lebanon it is 7%. So you use 7% as the social discount. You don't need any parameters, any calculations. It is already known, very simple. But if you want to use S, because it is more related to funded by consumption or displaces consumption. In this case, if S is going to use as a social discount rate, then the social rate, which is the social rate of time preference, then this requires estimates of 3 parameters. One, the utility discount rate saving behavior, impatient value and hazard rate. Elasticity and marginal rate of consumption. Estimates use both revealed and state preferences. 3, growth rate of consumption in the economy. So in case you decide to use S, which is the social time preference, how do you calculate S? S is the social time preference, social rate of time preference. It is, the government wants to use it as a social discount rate. So what's S? How do we determine S? There are 3 main points. First, the easiest one is the rate of consumption in the economy. How much is the consumption growing in the economy? This is one of the factors that affect social rate of time preference. What's the social rate of time preference? Do you remember we studied before patient, consumers, impatient? And how much you are willing to save for future consumption. In other words, how much future consumption is valuable to you. Okay? If you care more about current consumption, it means you care less of future consumption. You're not saving much. If you care more about future consumption, you will save more. This will affect us, the social rate, or this will affect the rate of substitution of current with future consumption. This is one of the factors that we need to consider. So first one is growth rate of consumption, how much it is growing. We have the utility discount rate saving behavior, impatient value, and hazard rate. Let us see table 12.1. Table 12.1, page 65. It shows the estimates of utility discount rate or rate of pure time preference. What's pure time preference? No. In order to calculate S, you need three parameters. One of them is called the utility discount rate saving behavior, or the rate of pure time preference. Okay? Rate of pure time. The second is the elasticity of marginal utility of consumption. And the third is the growth rate of consumption. You need these three. Maybe you add them, we will see, in order to calculate S. But we need to understand what does each one means, and how is it estimated. For example, the estimates of pure time preference, but there are many estimations. One economist, Scott, said that it is 1.5%. Kula, it's 1.2%. Blueberry, 1%, etc. So it's between, it seems, 0 and 0.1 and 3%. So it's usually it has a value, as I said, between 1 and 3%. What does this mean? This utility discount rate saving behavior. It picks up our individual awareness of our finite lives and has been estimated using data such as proportion of generation that will die each year. As for society risk of catastrophe, the UK Royal Rees claims that there is 50-50 chance that current civilization will remain till the end of the century. We can translate this prediction into a discount rate. The discount factor as the probability of survival given a specific hazard rate that is per period risk of catastrophe. I'm reading this is a bit complicated. If you know that there is a risk of catastrophe or hazard or disaster taking place, what will you do? You will consume more. You will not save much because you know the probability of catastrophe or death or disaster coming is high. So you will not save more, you will try to maximize your utility now. So this makes the value of the utility discount rate saving behavior between 1 or 0.1 and 3. It can be very low, it can be up high, up to 3%. It depends on what? It depends on how people view how much they are going to live, their awareness that you know that your life is finite. It has a time where your life is going to end, and there's some day in the future. If you expect to live a lot, you're healthy, etc., you might save more and spend more in the future. Why you can be, you will act as impatient. This will affect the value of the discount. By the way, S stands for social rate of time preference. شو يعني social rate of time preference؟ يعني how much the society and individuals in the society look into time preference, especially in relation to consumption. If we are trying to see, is it better to consume more when you are discounting the social benefits or costs of a project that is funded by consumption? I'm going to spend $1 million today, and people will be consuming, and there will be return coming to me in the future. This depends on the consumption, on the behavior of the consumers. The project will be successful or not depending on how much consumption will happen in the future. Okay? So I need to determine how much consumers prefer current consumption, the difference between current consumption and future consumption. We don't want to go into much details. I want you to understand that there are three factors that determine S, which is the social rate of time preference, which is used as a social discount rate in case we are public investments displaces consumption. Okay? The first one is the utility discount rate saving behavior. This rate is affected by how much people believe their they look into future consumption and future utility. Elasticity of marginal utility of consumption. What's elasticity? As we study elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply, this is elasticity of marginal utility. Okay? Also this has a value in table 12.2, page 67. Its estimate is between, it seems, 0.1 and 4. Okay? Based, for example, on US data. By the way, we said if we use, are you listening? If we use market data to calculate the social discount rate, we'll be using the positive or descriptive way. True? In order to estimate S, we need to estimate this, this, and this. How do you estimate these three? From where? From the market data. For example, in the United Kingdom, this value is different from Lebanon, because how people look into future consumption, into how much they value future consumption and future utility compared to present utility is different between different countries. It's not equal for our country. So that's why this number will be maybe 1 in UK and 3 in Lebanon. So when we are estimating the social discount rate, we have to put for this 3% if the project is in Lebanon, but 1% if the project is in the UK. But in both cases, we are using market data, so we are using what we call the descriptive way in calculating the social discount rate. The same for here. We need market data to calculate the elasticity. And they give you here some examples. In the US, for example, the answer, based on US market data, the elasticity of marginal utility of consumption is 1.89%. And for the United Kingdom, it is between 1.06 and 1.37. In OECD countries, it's between 1.25 and 1.45. Okay, so it differs between countries, between different markets. The final one is the growth rate of consumption. This is the easiest, the third parameter. How much is consumption growing? If the consumption is growing fast, this number will be high. If it is growing slow, it will be low. These three factors are important for what? For calculating S. In order to calculate S, we need these three. And in order to calculate these three, we need market data. So we are using what? The descriptive or positive approach. Even in the first one, if we come back to this case, you will find that we are using the market data to calculate what? The social discount rate, because it's equal to the rate of return on assets such as government bonds. The rate of return on Lebanese government bonds is 7%. On US government bonds, it's 1%. So the social discount, if we are using this rate for social discounting, in the US we discount for 1%, in Lebanon we discount for 7%. So now international variation in discounting. Based on what I said, you can notice that the social discount rate varies. It's not the same. You cannot use the social. Suppose you want to build a highway in Lebanon. The discount rate that you want to use in estimating the net present value of the benefits or the cost is different from the social discount rate if the same project is done in the US. Because if you are using the capital risk-free rate or return on capital, they are not the same. If you are using S, it's also not the same. So there is variation between social discount rates depending on the country, on many factors. So SDR estimates leave room for wide variation in discounting policy. You can see table 12.3, page 68. Some countries like UK and US suggest different discounting approaches for intergenerational projects. Projects that affect different generations, they should have a different discount rate. Why normative arguments for appropriate discount rate are becoming more important with long time horizons. Over time, because we are noticing that social projects or public projects, whether highways, energy, I listed, we give some examples in the beginning. They will affect current generation, future generation, and other future generations. Right? The effect might be up to 100 years or more. We agree on this. That's based on this. What's becoming more important is looking into the long run effect. So we should look into long time horizon, not only into the near future, but also have a look into the far future, long time horizon. Ethical content of market price and revealed preferences. We need to answer a question here. Why we should be suspicious of using market data to estimate social opportunity cost of capital or using revealed stated preferences. They are telling us here, what do we call, by the way, estimating social discount rate using market data? What is it called? Positive or descriptive way? True? Please, it's simple. And you need, the concept is simple. And if we use market information to calculate social discount rate, we are using positive or descriptive way. Coming back to this slide, we need to answer a question. Why normative arguments and not positive arguments? And why normative is not the descriptive or positive way? Why normative for appropriate discount rate are becoming more important with long time horizons? And why we are using now less than positive way?
Market change.
And why we are using less the market data in estimating the social discount rate? Why not? We are still using positive ways, like using market data for estimating the social discount, but it's becoming less because of things that are coming in. These are the intergenerational, because simply, if I want to calculate S, which is the social social rate of time preference, maybe in this generation the growth rate in consumption is 5%. For the coming generation, it will be 10%. This project will affect both this generation and the other. So if I say that it's now 5%, I cannot assume it will be 10 for the next generation. So this will affect the S, and the S value now I have to restudy it. I cannot be sure about it. Rahim. There are two ways that we can use to estimate the social discount rate. Two big ways. General. Normative, descriptive or positive. Descriptive and positive are the same. We studied the descriptive and positive. Descriptive and positive means using market data to calculate the social discount rate. We can either use, we can equate and make the social discount rate equal to R, which is the risk-free rate of return on private capital, or equal to S, which is the social rate of time preference. If we equate it to R, from where do we get R? From the market data. If we equate it to S, from where do we get S? From the market data, because S is related to three parameters: utility, marginal, growth rate of consumption, etc. If R is 7% based on market data, maybe in the next generation after 20 years it will not be 7. It will not stay the same. Okay, you agree? 2, regarding S, if the growth rate of consumption is currently 10%, suppose, maybe for the future generation it will be 20%. And when I use a discount rate, I am discounting not only for 4 or 5 years. The discount rate, for example, is 1 over 1 plus R to the power N, where N is the number of years, or T, the time. T might be 100 years. So if I'm using S as 5% because the growth of consumption is 5, let's say growth rate of consumption is 5. It is 5 now for this generation, for these people in the society. But in 20 years, when there is a new generation, their consumption behavior or utility behavior or patient, impatient, it might change, and S will change. So the discount rate will change if I am talking about long time horizon. If I'm talking for 10 years, that's fine, or 5 years. I can use the descriptive way or the positive way, because the S and R might not change much. Okay? Then we are still in the same generation. But if I am talking about many years in the future, long run future, long time horizon, I need to go into the normative, not descriptive ways of determining the social discount rate. So why we should be suspicious, لازم نكون قلقين أو حذرين in using market data, يعني positive approach, in estimating the social opportunity cost of capital, which is used for calculating R, يعني the social discount rate, or using revealed stated preferences, which are the related to consumption. Your revealed preference يعني شو بيصرح الكونسيومر قد ايه بيفضل, how much he prefers future consumption to current consumption. Why I should be suspicious in using market data? The answer: there is information problem because the future is uncertain. Because we can't say how the future generation will behave or what will happen in the future. If the social opportunity cost of capital now that I'm going to use it as a discount rate is 5, in the future it might be 20. I cannot be sure about the future. That's why I should be suspicious. Hadr. 2, absence of future generation from current market decision making, since market revealed preferences of the current generation. The answers that I'm getting from the market are only the answers of the current generation. Nobody can answer me what future generation preferences will be. So, for example, if I am using the S, the social time preference rate, S is now 5% because I am looking into the preferences of the current generation. If I consider the future generation, I cannot consider the future generation because I don't know about them. They are not yet there. Individual behavior in market does not reflect full social values. And even individuals currently in their preferences may not consider much social values. They look only at their own benefits. So even this makes market data we should be suspicious. It's not accurate using market data in estimating the social discount rate. So back to the CBA, the cost-benefit analysis, distributional problems for intergenerational projects. What's intergenerational?
Between the generation.
Yes, you have intergeneration, يعني now you are in the intergeneration في old في new generation the young. Public projects that makes everyone better off are rare, so ethical problems are arise. You know that you cannot find a public project in real life, a project where everyone is better off, where everyone will get benefit and there is no cost. Okay? There will be always some costs. This generation may benefit, the next generation will pay the price or will pay the cost. Maybe health, their health, maybe their other social problems, etc. So there is, first of all, we should know that no projects have full benefits, there are costs. Two, this means, that's why we should have some ethical considerations. لازم ناخد عن اعتبار امور شو اخلاقيه، امور ethics, morals. Net present value rule used in CBA does not pay attention to the identity of winners and losers from public. Another idea that we should watch when we are estimating, in this last part of the chapter, we are trying to tell you the following. There are ways to estimate the social discount rate. Suppose we estimated the social discount rate as 10%, and we decided to make the project based on this social discount rate. I calculated the net present value. It was positive. So what will I do as a government? I will do this project. Great, I've done this. I start doing this project. But this project, I calculated the net present value, but it was positive. It means that there are more benefits than costs. But I didn't look who are the winners and who are the losers. There are those who benefit and there are those who will lose. Maybe sometimes even though the benefits are more, but the losers are certain part of the society that I want them to benefit. And the one who is getting the benefit, they don't need much that benefit. So in calculating NPV, I'm looking into numbers only. I will repeat. Why do we use the social discount rate? To see the net present value of a future benefit or cost. If I find out using the social discount rate that the present value، أنا بدي أعمل مشروع بيكلفني هلا $100,000. عائدات هيدا المشروع بالمستقبل عن 50 سنة الجايين. إذا I want to see them in present value now is 120. So هيدا المشروع cost له 100 بس رح يعطيني عائد 120,000 after I discount. كيف كان discount؟ بشوف the future value divided by 1 plus this social discount rate, all of them to the power 50, which is the number of years. If I found out that the number is higher than the cost, which is 100,000, it means I have what we call positive net present value. This means that I make the project. Great. Header project cost 100, socially it cost 100,000, and I'm getting return of 120. Great. This project is good. But even though there is $20,000 gain, but you know that for any project, as we said, not everyone gains. This 20,000 may be going to this part of the society. This part, which is smaller, are going to lose. But this, so am I being fair?
No.
There are losers, and these losers do not deserve to be affected negatively. So that's why I'm telling you, even though in numbers, I found out that the project is good, but ethically it might not be good. So I should take into consideration ethical things, ethical values. So maybe for the first 30 years, the generations will be getting benefit. After 30 years, there are losses. So overall, I found out that the number is positive. It's positive, yes, because for the first 30 years, people are getting benefit. After 30 years, there will be many social effects. مثلا بدنا نعمل معمل كهرباء مثل ما قلنا على الطاقة النووية، يمكن هلا ما بيأس فينا نعمله بلبنان. ل 50 سنة لقدام ما رح يتضرر ولا لبناني. بعد 50 سنة رح يكون في إشعاعات بلشت تأثر، وأي جنريشن موجودة بعد 50 سنة رح تمرض. إذا بنعمل البروجكت بنلاقي لا، البروجكت البريزنت الفاليو لأنه من يعني النت بريزنت فاليو is positive. في عنا benefit of $1 million overall net. Great. Shall we do it? في profit بس في unethically رح نأذي بعد 50 سنة كل الفيوتشر generation. So maybe now the number doesn't matter. The ethics are more important. This is it. So even though I worked hard to calculate the social discount rate, but there are also ethical values that I should consider. Intergenerational transfers like income tax, inheritance tax may not compensate the right people and may not exist for sufficiently long horizons. One way some governments say that yes, we will suppose the current generation is getting benefit from this project, they will pay tax, income tax. The tax that they are paying is to pay for the project. So they are already paying the cost. Others say if the future generation are going to benefit, we are already making the future generation in any country, whenever they want to inherit, يعني لما بدهم يورثوا شيء من أهلهم, they have to pay a tax called inheritance tax. فنحن we are letting them pay costs for their future benefit. So this is fairness. But even this is not very, it requires analysis. When compensation is impossible between generation, value judgments are required. In this case, in the case where there cannot, what do you mean by compensation is impossible between generations? If one generation, the current generation is getting benefit, and the next generation will pay the cost, how can we make the current generation compensate for the future one? It's not easy. That's why we need to use value judgment, not anymore market data or positive view. يعني إذا تعويض من current generation، كيف current generation اللي عم تستفيد فيها تعوض على future generation؟ إذا ما ملاقيين طريقة إنه current generation اللي عم تستفيد من المشاريع ما قدرت تعوض على future generation اللي رح تتضرر من المشاريع. In this case, discount rate that we should use should not depend on the market data or on positive. We should use normative or ethics or value judgment. Value judgment means look into the project not only from this perspective, which is the market data, etc. Non-marginal impact of climate change. Arguments for moving away from using marginal change for social discounting related to climate change. Investment in climate change mitigation are likely to have non-huge marginal impacts on welfare. If climate change continues unhindered, there may be a large decline in consumption and growth may turn negative. What do we mean non-marginal impacts of climate change? Climate change, which is the change in the climate due to human intervention and human projects by government or private sector, has huge costs. They are telling us here that we cannot anymore use marginal change for social discounting related to climate change. We cannot anymore use the numbers or the positive way in calculating social discount rate, especially when we are talking about climate change. In calculate يعني بمعنى آخر خليني بسط الموضوع. إذا موضوع بيأذي الانفايرمنت يمكن using marginal change or using positive view or descriptive, which are the same, the social discount rate will be 10%. 10% means the cost is not high in the future. It means I will do the project. If I don't use this way, the social discount rate might be 2%. It means the cost in the future will be high, so I don't do it. In looking into social projects that will have impact on climate change, I should be conservative. And I should not look into marginal change. Investment in climate change mitigation are likely to have non-marginal impacts on welfare. The investments الاستثمارات اللي عم بتصير to mitigate، شو يعني mitigate؟ يعني نخفف من مخاطر التغير المناخي، ما رح كثير تأثر على الوالفير، يعني ما رح تأثر على المعيشة وعلى المجتمع وعلى الستاندردز اوف ليفنج. بالعكس، العكس هو الصحيح. إذا ما تدخلنا نخفف من الكلايمت تشينج، المشاكل اللي راح بتصير أكبر بكتير. شو هي المشاكل؟ Economically speaking, consumption will go down لأنه production will decrease. Consumption will go down. The growth in consumption will become شو؟ Negative. What are we trying to say here? We are trying to say we should watch climate change. We should have low social discount rates for climate change, because any project that will affect climate change might have a huge impact in the future. Huge impact on what? Of course, health, etc. But also, because you know you care about growth in economies, in consumption, etc. These will drop and will decrease and will be affected negatively. So be aware of climate change and social discounting for projects, social projects that affect climate change. Okay, this was not a very simple maybe chapter. I advise you all to read it, and if you have questions, I will answer you during office hours or in class next week. Okay, now I will see your projects. Okay, you can turn it off.